Well, some early signing day bad news. UCLA loses its two top commitments, one on the O-line, one on the D-line. Major losses for UCLA in this 2026 class.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free, wherever it's your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back, everydayers. Thanks for making this show part of the number one sports podcast network out there. Yes, Locked On UCLA, part of the number one sports podcast network. Locked On Podcast Network. Yeah, that's right. Where we're getting started today, we're talking UCLA's lost flips. I had some bad news early in the transfer portal the other day. I had some good news about UCLA getting David Swerzel. But with that flip of Swerzel from Stanford, UCLA lost two commitments, and that's why I think the Bruins are able to get Swerzel and push so hard for him to recommit to UCLA. Why they push so hard to get Cooper Jaworski back to UCLA as an interior offensive lineman to recommit to the Bruins. Why? Because UCLA lost one of its top-rated recruits in Carter Gooden. Depending on if you looked at 24/7 Sports, that was UCLA's highest-rated recruit. Highest-rated recruit in this class. And on the eve of on signing day, the number one player in the state of Massachusetts goes to Tennessee, a four-star defensive lineman, an edge, 6'4", out of Tabor Academy. UCLA actually had two players from Tabor Academy. I believe they both flipped elsewhere, and Gooden getting wooed by Tennessee. So if you're really keeping score, maybe the Nico trade is completed. It was Joey Aguilar and a player to be named later. That might be Gooden. Jokes aside, big-time loss, but I think why UCLA went so hard after Swerzel, who was one of the better West Coast defensive linemen out there on the market, that's why the Bruins brought somebody like Swerzel in at the last moment, because they knew Gooden was probably looking elsewhere. Not sure if it was an SEC NIL thing. Not sure if it was a what's the fit vibe. The funny thing is, you bring in a Bob Chesney like UCLA still expected to do. Obviously, it's not officially official, but that's what they're bringing in as the new head coach. He's like the East Coast guy. Like he's from and coached in around the area, not necessarily in Massachusetts. Actually, I'll be quite honest, I don't even know where Assumption College is at the moment, but there's South Virginia. They've got some Rhode Island vibes. You got James Madison, the South, more East Coast vibes. But Bob Chesney's got a pulse on that side of the country. So you wondered if there was just a little extra time between the end of the season and early signing day, if Chesney could have really impacted this situation or not. However, Chesney, as we learned from Dave Schultz of Locked On Sunbelt, his bread and butter is getting the line. Despite losing talent from James Madison in between seasons, they're still solid and good to go for a team that's playing the Sunbelt Championship. So all it means is Chesney is going to go to work in the portal. Does that mean bringing over specific James Madison players, other guys he's competed against in the Sun Belt, finding other open spots and open players from the transfer portal? I haven't exactly done a deep dive into guys who could follow him from James Madison. That's not what's open right now. James Madison's playing for something else. What the Bruins are losing is a big-time edge. And they lost Micah Champ-Smith. So the two positions of need, and I talked about this a couple of days ago, I think on my December 1st podcast for Locked On UCLA, where some of these guys, like a Carter Gooden, Torrey Davis, and now in Micah's case, another flip in the other direction. Davis was already trending towards a flip to Texas. You had Gooden, who was trending towards a flip the other way. And then, all according to Hayes Fawcett of Rivals, talking about, hey, these guys committed and they're flipping from Gooden to now Micah Champ-Smith, who was one of the big guys, one of the big recruits from Vero Beach, Florida, that showcased UCLA had national staying power during the summer recruitment frenzy with Deshaun Foster. Getting Micah Champ-Smith, who was an uber athlete, we had our own Locked On portal guy come on, and we were talking about, hey, that guy in Florida is big time. Big time, Micah Champ-Smith. And was even better than a Johnny Jones, who once committed to UCLA from the state of Florida. He was probably a better prospect to play right away than what was the previously highest commit for UCLA. All right. So the Bruins are they're going to have to ease their way through these situations. So the Bruins losing Micah Champsmith. This is a guy who flipped to Illinois, all right? Going to Illinois. So that's a huge flip for Illinois. It's unfortunate. I think that UCLA would have had a better fit. They're going in a better direction than Illinois, at least from the ground up, but maybe he wants a better program from right now. This is what Smith is, right? This is what the 24/7 sports site for Illinois says about Micah Smith, what UCLA is losing. Smith is a high floor, high ceiling prospect, size and athleticism to play at the Big Ten level right away. Needs a little technical refinement and has to adjust to a college offense, but that's a guy who has length, power, and physicality to play right away. That's what the Illini Inquirer is saying about Micah Champsmith, a guy that could have played right away on a UCLA offensive line that desperately needed starters, talent, stockpiling talent. That's what UCLA is losing. And then when you go to Carter Gooden and his decision to go to Tennessee, this is what Andrew Ivins at 24/7 Sports had to say. Explosive first step, can line up in multiple positions, unique backgrounds because he grew up in Canada, can launch out of 2 and 3-point stances, can dart inside, outside, shifts weight, and build speed, and is active in pursuit. But if you're listening to the description of a Carter Gooden, the edge rusher, that's similar to what we've heard from David Schwartzel, what I was reading in the other podcast, how him coming to UCLA, he's versatile, can bounce around on the D line, and that's where UCLA is replacing that talent. In terms of Micah Smith, I think that might be the biggest loss in this recruiting cycle, not being able to secure him all the way through, because there are summer wins, but unfortunately, maybe some of you might have noted a long time back in the comments, a long time ago, keeping those guys through a coaching change, even though some of these guys were committed. Illinois, I think what the 24/7 Sports site said, they're losing 4 of their 5 starters. Maybe they up the compensation. I'm not sure how it all works in some of these last-minute flips. Both the Bruins kind of up in the air. Yes, they know what the next head coach is looking like versus Illinois. They got their coach in place. They're like, hey, we can get you right away. UCLA is more of a moving place. All right. We don't know which coaches are going to stay, what position coaches, what other recruiting staff is staying, what's the vibe with Chesney. Extremely good from all I've heard and read and talked about, but he's got to go build those own relationships. So that means Chesney is going to have to use his strength, which is being strong up front, building from the inside out, going from the lines and working his way out, whether it's offensively, defensively. The Bruins, they can go find skill positions. They will at some point find a quarterback, although the question is it Nico or someone else in 26? But if you can't protect insert quarterback, whether that is a Nico Imaleava, if you can't rush the passer, stop the run up front, doesn't matter what linebackers you have, doesn't matter that 4 DBs are in the portal, maybe more, maybe not. If you can't stop those, they're just going to gash you again and again with the run and with their all day to throw like they had at times in 2024. So the Bruins are going to have to hit the portal. They're going to have to do so with precise talent evaluation. Because there's been a lot of times where UCLA, they try to go after some guys in the portal, like, this D-line and this O-line is just either committing false start to false start or just not able to get after the quarterback and is as unathletic and has the least amount of ability to pursue or bring down somebody in the backfield that we've almost never seen at a UCLA defensive or offensive front, right? Whether it's protecting the quarterback or chasing down the quarterback, getting after the running back in the backfield. Keep and contain. Those were major struggles, even with the Kevin Coyle adjustments and defensive upgrades, or the Jerry Neuheisel upgrades in offense, the simplified offense with the Noel Mazzoni influenced play calling, right? They still need to beef up. And the Bruins losing some of these beefy guys up front, although the defensive switch from Schwartzel losing Gooden, I think can be dealt with, and the Bruins can find another guy or two in the portal. It's the O-line that the Bruins just can't lose all too much. So this, though, so we can end on a good note, are the guys who, as of this moment, I believe have signed, and then there are hard commits. So UCLA's losing of their top 2 commits has seen their class go from 45 to the 70s, looking at 24/7 Sports recruiting. So you got Kenneth Moore, Camden Jensen, wide receiver tight end, Malachi Soleil-Tui, that's a linebacker, CJ Lavender, a DB and a safety to offset all those losses. You've got Logan Hyru, a safety, another guy in the secondary, Cooper Jaworski, an O-lineman who was a later recommitment to UCLA coming from San Juan Hills. You have Marcus Almada, who I guess I might have misspoke earlier, who is still committed to come to UCLA. He signed his letter of intent. So you had UCLA lose his high school teammate in Carter Gooden, but Almada is still with UCLA. Misspoke a little bit there. James Moffitt from Crespi, D lineman, staying. Marcus Keir from Orange Lutheran is coming to UCLA. Major Pride, a late flip from San Diego State, coming to UCLA. Matthew Moisau, a 6'1 linebacker, one of those guys who recommitted to UCLA. So the Bruins, couple of linebacker commits, quite a few D-line commits. Swerzel, though, is the, I think, clash gem on the D-line, and it looks like Cooper Jaworski might be the big O-lineman the Bruins can keep. You have Anthony Jones, the highest rated commit, according to this podcast at this moment, that he has not officially signed yet. David Schwarzel's a hard commit. Travis Robertson's a hard commit. And Giancarlo Serengino is a 3-star, 6-foot long snapper. So you have 2 D linemen and an offensive tackle who have not signed but are hard commits right now to UCLA. Some of those later flips and might not be signing today just yet. But so far, the Bruins have 11, as of this recording, 11 hard signees coming to UCLA as of this recording. So while the class has tanked a little bit, was once close to 20 plus commits, dipping to the 18s, now into the, not even in the teens, in the 11s right now, the Bruins could have up to 15 guys, and we'll see what that means if those guys sign eventually or if there's last second deals before signing day comes to an end. So some good, some bad, the Bruins counteracting the good and the bad. And then my message though, I believe in Bob. Believe in Bob. Bob Chesney can get this done. He can hit the portal. We're not looking for 12 wins tomorrow. As much as I'm excited, I'd like to see a bowl game. I like to see the Bruins competitive in more than just 3 or 4 games. I think the Bruins can be competitive in more than 3. They can be competitive in 8 to 9 to 10 games next year, regardless of the competition, and be flirting with a bowl, regardless of who they bring in because of the coach and what he's done in rebuilding. Doesn't mean it might not be 5-7 in year 1. Doesn't mean it couldn't be 7-5 next year or something a little crazier. But that is what Chesney has to do to evaluate after the Sun Belt Championship game if James Madison does not get in the CFP. All right? He wins that Sun Belt Championship. You got a JMU team that's 12-1, and Chesney can start calling these guys in the portal and be like, wait a minute, look at me. I got a nice new dig over at UCLA. Let's go build something with the Bruins in Westwood and Pasadena and SoFi, wherever the Bruins play. Let's go build it. So I believe in it. These guys who signed, they want to be here. UCLA can maybe do a little bit better talent evaluating with Chesney in terms of portal evaluations. And then at some point, the guys you bring in, you got to develop them. Even if it is for a year, for an offseason, there's got to be some in-season development, in-game coaching adjustments, where Dave Schultz of Locked On Sunbelt said, Bob Chesney's really, really good. How do you maximize the potential of your players? And he did, whether it was when his quarterback was injured, had a running quarterback system with the likes of his 2 QB system at James Madison right now. All right. So it's a nice little battle for Chesney. He's going to have to endure to get UCLA to be good. But until then, the Bruins, they got their work cut out for them. Some early bad news on signing day, but I think the Bruins will recover. It might not look so in the numbers or in the stars or in the rankings, but I think the Bruins will be fine. But it's still not the best of news right away. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, from every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, the defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump in the moment. For me, I'm a big Raider fan. Obviously, they're not having the season as expected, but they're 7.5-point dogs on FanDuel against the Broncos at home. Last time the Raiders played the Broncos, a Thursday night game, the Raiders lost in like a very close game. Kind of hard to watch, but maybe it makes you think, do you want to go with the Broncos on an inside field that might be filled with Bronco fans, or do you want to choose the Raiders? Well, the Raiders aren't doing so good. So that line, 7.5 in favor of Denver on FanDuel. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On UCLA. A little bit of an early signing day recap here on the early parts of this early signing day, 2 to 3 day window. I'm going to be talking about it, dissecting it, more UCLA basketball content, all that and more here on Locked On UCLA. So hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.